real, it's live, and as some comrades say, it's lit, right? lit, lit, lit. Real, live, lit, 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 right? The revolution is lit.
Uhuru, comrades, and welcome to today's Omali Taught Me Sunday Study live with the leader of the African nation, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Last Sunday, we attended the 7th Electoral Campaign School hosted by the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations held in St. Petersburg, Florida, and what a dynamic school it was. And today we're back with our series on the history of anti-colonial revolution. And this week we focus our attention on the world's first successful workers' revolution, the African Revolution of Ayiti, or Haiti. To kick us off today, we'll have an overview on the Haitian Revolution. Following, we will hear from the leader of the African nation and the International African Revolution, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And before we begin, make sure to like and share this video on the platform you're viewing from. And also, the chairman has recently launched a Twitch account. So if you have an account, or go ahead and just get a Twitch account for the sake of following the chairman, and make sure to subscribe to Chairman Omali Yeshitela. So again, that's Chairman Omali Yeshitela on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Follow the chairman on all those platforms and subscribe to the Burning Spirit TV YouTube page. And also get this study out broadly, widely right now. Share, hashtag share in the comment section. Once you've shared it, get this political education out into the world. And so we can have this dynamic discussion and include and bring all the forces necessary, into this process. So again, take the time right now to share this study and follow, like, and subscribe to the chairman's different social media platforms. So now to give us our overview, I'd like to turn it over to Comrade Elikya Ngoma. Elikya Ngoma was born in Miami, Florida on August 11th, 1991, to a family from Haiti and is based in the Little Haiti area of Miami. She is the youngest of 3 living siblings and is the only one of her siblings to be born, raised, and currently living in the United States. Elikya grew up attending a local Haitian church, which built her connection to the Haitian community in Miami. But as a child in the 90s, she also attended multiple protests and demonstrations outside of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services building, where the local Haitian community would make demands for Africans from Haiti to be accepted into the U.S. instead of being turned back. Elikya has been a close witness to the many struggles of Africans from Haiti, including being deported and sent back to Haiti, coming to the United States for asylum, earthquakes and hurricanes, kidnappings, and more. Elikya is a member of the African People's Socialist Party and under the direction of Chairman Omali Yeshitela functions as the Haiti editor for the Burning Spear newspaper and the African People's Socialist Party's Haiti expert. She provides African internationalist education and Ayiti's history, analysis on the current conditions of Africans in Haiti, and etc., and has also translated the African People's Socialist Party's 14-point platforms, What We Want, what we believe into the Creole, Haitian Creole language to help expand the chairman's theory of African internationalism to Ayiti and to help the party bring Ayiti to to the International African Revolution. So I want to welcome Comrade Elikya Ngoma, who also is the maestro behind the music, our Omali Taught Me theme song. Welcome, Comrade Elikya Ngoma. Thank you for joining us. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Director Akile, thank you very much for that introduction. Before we begin, I would like to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who is the leader of the African nation, as is stated in every hashtag Omali Taught Me Sunday study, and also the founder of the theory of African internationalism. And I want to say that, coming into the party, I knew a lot of the history I'm going to go over, but knowing how to contextualize it the right way came from being an African internationalist and learning the theory of African internationalism. It makes the history useful and it makes it, relevant to what's happening right now. So right now I'm going to be providing an overview on the African Revolution of Haiti, which is dated 1804. It was, as Dr. Akile said, the first successful workers' revolution in the world and the first successful anti-colonial revolution in the world. Africa belongs to Africans worldwide. Again, we want to salute the chairman's theory of African internationalism. It is what lets us know that all Black people around the world are a part of a singular African nation, and that presently we have to make this united and international African revolution. Haiti is a result of what Chairman Omali Yeshitela calls the colonial mode of production. The colonial mode of production is a term that came as a result of an ideological breakthrough that the chairman had in a 2021 hashtag Omali Taught Me Sunday study, which means that everything produced for the colonizers, all goods, services, even life itself, comes at the expense of the colonized. It's the unity of opposites, which means that if there is an oppressed, there is an oppressor. If there's a colonized, there is a colonizer. And so the colonial mode of production experienced by the colonized is experienced by the colonized and the colonizers in this parasitic system. The colonial mode of production is a world system under which everything produced for the colonizers, all goods, services, even life itself, comes at the expense of the colonized. So when you go to Ayiti, the Taino people were the indigenous people of Ayiti. They were a part of what are known as the Arawaks, but that particular group was called the Taino people, and they lived on the island that they called Ayiti, or its full name, Ayiti Quisqueya Boyo. Ayiti meaning land of high mountains, land of many mountains. Quisqueya meaning the mother of all lands or the mother of earth, and Boyo meaning our home. And they lived there for thousands of years. Christopher Columbus landed on Ayiti on December 5th, 1492, and immediately began genocide. The Tainos, who were known for being peaceful people, and in fact, that's part of what the word Taino meant, welcomed Columbus and helped him to survive. In Columbus's documents, he wrote, quote, "We can send from here in the name of the Holy Trinity all the slaves and Brazil wood which could be sold." So he came with the intention to establish colonial enslavement. Columbus and his men raped, tortured, and slaughtered the Taino people. They had dogs that were trained to attack the indigenous people and rip out their intestines. And within 40 years, the entire Taino population, especially the entire population that was present in Haiti, was completely wiped out. In the 1500s, Europe slaughtered 55 million indigenous people. Genocide was so vast, it created a new ice age as native farms, villages were turned back into forests. So one thing the chairman, helps us understand is that when colonizers go somewhere, they like to do what they call scratching the name off and and claim it's theirs. They do it, with our culture. They do it with everything. So with Haiti, Columbus named Haiti Hispaniola, which means Little Spain. In 1697, Spain seceded the western third of the island to France. So this is how you can see the whole island of Haiti. You see Haiti, Haiti on one side, and what's called the Dominican Republic on the other side. So France grew cotton, indigo, tobacco, sugar, and other such things on huge plantations in Haiti with enslaved African people. By then, they have brought in African people onto the land, and this is how France was building their wealth. In the 1700s, the French grew tobacco and sugar on the island. Saint-Domingue, which was the name of the whole island at that point as well, was called the Pearl of the Antilles. And a lot of people, sometimes we find either Haitian nationalists or, other types of people try to use this title as a bragging right, but that's never been a bragging right for us, because when it was a Pearl of the Antilles, it was for France. It was not for the benefit of African people. It was not under our terms and our conditions. It was the Pearl because we were a part of making them the majority of their wealth. And it created the greatest wealth of all of the French colonies. In fact, in 1767, it exported 72 million pounds of raw sugar and 51 million pounds of refined sugar, 1 million pounds of indigo, and 2 million pounds of cotton. This single colony, roughly the size of Maryland or Belgium, produced more sugar and coffee than all of Britain's West Indian colonies combined. France achieved colonial wealth by kidnapping and enslaving African people and working them to death within 7 years. The French were known for being particularly brutal. And, it's always something to note that if even amongst colonizers and colonial enslavers, you have a group of enslavers that are known to be even more brutal, then, that speaks to the level of brutality that was there. By the 1700s, more than 50,000 Africans per year were kidnapped to Hispaniola or Saint-Domingue at that time, or what we're calling Haiti right now. And they were living under brutal conditions of torture and colonial violence. A third of the entire trade in African people were brought to Haiti. In the 1800s, there were 500,000 enslaved Africans and only 32,000 French persons. And Haiti was also often one of the first stop that was made along the what is called the slave trade or the slave route as well. And even that plays a factor in the level of resistance that was going there, the ongoing resistance that was there, because you were often having people who had been, freshly kidnapped, who have a very direct and vivid memory of being free, being brought to this land. During this time, African resistance grew strong. So you have the Maroons, who were a group of escaped enslaved Africans who were fighters and created their own self-government. And the Maroons, which were present, you have the Maroons in Jamaica, you have Maroons throughout the Caribbean, and in Haiti, they were also known for going up into the mountains as well, and using the mountains themselves as part of, their resistance and their ability to camouflage. Today in Haitian Creole, when we use the word maroon, which we would use the word maon, maonage, it is a word that is used to mean camouflage itself. So the Maroon leader Macandal, he led an uprising of Africans in 1758. Macandal led raids on plantations that led to the killing of colonial enslavers and burning their land. And Macandal, Francois Macandal in particular, he had a very good knowledge of natural herbs. He had a really good like scientific understanding of the plant, so he knew how to make things to heal. He also knew how to make poisons as well. And it's quite known that at one point Macandal instructed the Africans to poison and to kill all the enslavers and any African that could not be trusted to stay true to the revolution as well. So centuries of African anti-colonial resistance sparked the French Revolution in 1781. The African Revolution of Ayiti influenced the French Revolution to abolish slavery. So this is something, that African internationalism makes clear, because when you look at the way history taught, if the Haitian Revolution is ever taught at all, because it's not taught, they reverse it. They say that it is because of the French Revolution that Africans in Haiti were inspired to have the revolution, which that implies, or that means that we were fine with being enslaved, and it wasn't until that the French had a revolution we're like, oh, maybe we should have a revolution too. Is the opposite. We had always been resisting. We had always been trying to have a revolution, and that's what inspired the French Revolution. So African people launched the first battle of the Haitian Revolution in 1791. So on August 14, 1791, that is the date of the ceremony at Bois-Caïma, the Vodou ceremony that was led by Dati Boukman. Dati Boukman was from Senegambia at the time and was kidnapped to Jamaica and then sent to Haiti thereafter. And, he was called Bookman because he was always reading the Bible in particular. Excuse me. And so, there is a Bookman prayer that exists, and that was what led the voodoo ceremony of August 14, 1791. But the revolution is said to start on August 21st, 1791, which was a week later. And that's important to note, because a lot of people, including people in Haiti themselves, accept as truth that the revolution was a result or was successful because of the voodoo ceremony. But as African internationalists, which makes us scientists and materialists, we understand that the revolution was successful because of the fight of the Africans in Haiti and the organization that existed there as well. And even knowing that there was a week in between the time of the ceremony and the first battle, had that first battle never happened on the 21st, it doesn't matter what happened on the 14th. The revolution would not have happened. So, that's just to say that, we recognize the ceremony because it was part of uniting the Africans together to make them take a pledge that they would stay true to the revolution and that they would see this thing all the way through, and what it did for their morale, and just in terms of like keeping your culture, your practices and stuff like that. But it is not the reason that the revolution was successful. So now we go to Toussaint Louverture, who built a powerful army of enslaved African workers. In fact, Toussaint Louverture, he got the last name Louverture. Louverture means the opening, because he was very good at identifying openings amongst the enemy's lines. He was just a very brilliant strategist in that sense, and he had actually been fighting in different armies. He had fought in the Spanish army, against the British, and he had fought against other armies, and all the things he was learning he brought to the army of the enslaved Africans. In 1798, a formerly enslaved Toussaint led his African army to defeat the British invasion. And in 1801, he also he led to the defeat of Spain as well. So Toussaint Louverture ruled Haiti, but one thing about him is that he never declared independence from France. In fact, in Toussaint Louverture's constitution, it names France as basically keeping, dominion over Haiti. So he would be the ruler of Haiti under France. He never actually declared independence, and that speaks to the class question that the chairman always talks about, that exists, um, in within the struggle for national liberation and African liberation as well. Um, that he didn't find it necessary. In fact, there's an article on theburningspear.com that I wrote that lays out, Toussaint's relationship even to his enslavers, and how all of those things, would likely play a role in why, how he developed this kind of stances that we would call a petit bourgeois stance today. In 1802, Napoleon sent 30,000 of his best troops to try to reclaim Haiti for France. The French lured Toussaint onto a ship and kidnapped him, to France. He tricked him. In fact, Dessalines, told Toussaint not to meet with the um, with the French, because it was a trick. But Toussaint didn't listen. He got on the boat. He saw himself as pretty equal because of his military status and stuff like that, as equal with the French. And what they did, they took him, locked him away, took him to France, locked him away, and on top of a mountain in a prison. And so it says that he died of pneumonia, medically speaking, yes, but he definitely died as a result of colonialism. That was definitely a colonial attack, as well, because even though he didn't lead Haiti to independence, and he had his shortcomings, he, had been a part of, the overall fight against colonialism itself. So Napoleon ordered slavery to be reinstated in Haiti. So Jean-Jacques Dessalines, which was Toussaint Louverture's chief lieutenant, his second in command, his secretary general, all those type of terms, he led the Africans against the French. Now, Jean-Jacques Dessalines was a very no nonsense, no compromise, no surrender. He, was very clear on what he wanted for Africans in Haiti. He wanted total independence. So in the army, African women made up nearly 45% of the Liberation Army of Haiti, and that even shows the character of the African nation. That African women have always been right there. We have always, been leaders, been right on the side, right in the front, just right there into the struggle ourselves. In fact, it's also known that Jean-Jacques Dessalines got a lot of his training from an African woman as well, growing up. So Dessalines believed in total independence for Africans in Haiti. Under Dessalines, Africans waged brilliant guerrilla warfare against France. And, as it says here, Haiti became Napoleon's Vietnam. So in school, they teach you that Napoleon had never been defeated. At this time, the French army was the strongest army in the world, the strongest military in the world. And they tried to hold on to that. They tell you Napoleon had never been defeated, but that's not true. He was defeated, and he was defeated by Black people, and he was defeated by Black people in Haiti. Dessalines led the French into swamps where they had no immunity against malaria. So again, that's just another part of our brilliance of knowing, knowing to make everything a part of our use all your weapons, everything that we can find as an advantage for us and a weakness for the colonizer. We want to use that. So 26,000 French troops were killed by African revolutionaries. Napoleon then sent his brutal General Rochambeau into Haiti, and Rochambeau wrote to Napoleon that to reclaim Haiti, France must re-enslave African people and destroy at least 30,000 African men and women. He burned alive, hanged, and drowned, basically just murdered and tortured African prisoners. And he buried people in piles of insects and boiled them in, in cauldrons of molasses. After one battle, Rochambeau buried 500 Africans alive, and Dessalines responded by hanging 500 French prisoners, exactly 500 for 500. That's exact retaliation. And then from after you have this slogan that existed at the time of the revolution, and you hear on the streets of Haiti today, especially amongst those who are fighting against neocolonialism, which is coupe tête boule caille. It means cut heads, burn houses. That's the motto. That's what we're doing. That's how we're going to carry this out. There's no sympathy for the colonizers. So Dessalines and the Africans defeated the French army on November 18, 1803. The November 18 was the Bataille de Vertières in northern Haiti. That was the final battle of the revolution, and by January 1st, 1804, Haiti was declared to be independent. Jean-Jacques Dessalines issued a proclamation declaring, "We have repaid these cannibals, war for war, crime for crime, outrage for outrage." And he also has another quote, "We have been, free for ourselves and by ourselves. So, let us live for ourselves and by ourselves." I kind of just paraphrase that. But so to this day, January 1st is celebrated as the date of Haiti's independence. And actually, January 2nd was declared the Day of the Ancestors as well, which is to remember all of the Africans who were fallen during the revolution. So one of the many great things that Dessalines did, and not just Dessalines, but the African people of that time as well, they reinstated the name of what was at that point Saint-Domingue to Ayiti. They renamed it back to Ayiti, back to the name that was there for the indigenous people, from the Taino people from the get-go. So that, that's a stance of solidarity. That's a stance of recognizing who that land was for. And although I don't have a date for this, I know that now oftentimes Haiti is referred to Haiti Toma. Toma is like, Haiti is the only country that has a last name. Toma means this land is ours. So at some point thereafter, it became Haiti Toma. So remembering the indigenous, but also saying that, based on the conditions, that this land is ours. The African Revolution of Haiti was a blow to the world economy centered on the sale and forced labor of African people. That is the birth of capitalism. As you can read in the chairman's book, An Uneasy Equilibrium, The African Revolution versus Parasitic Capitalism, Black people were the first capital of capitalism. So our victory in Haiti was a blow to the colonial mode of production. Haiti almost single-handedly stopped this system, this world economy, and this world system that was the enslavement of African people, and this world economy that was capitalism. The African Revolution of Haiti is the unrecognized model for every progressive and socialist revolution since then. So we have a look at the constitution that was developed by Jean-Jacques Dessalines in 1805, and you can find that on the Burning Spear as well. Some of those points is that one, anyone escaping oppression anywhere in the world would be accepted into Haiti, and that history has proven that that has been true. All citizens, even the white people who were on that land, would be known as Black. There was freedom of religion, something that did not exist Toussaint's um, in Toussaint's constitution. Everybody had to be Catholic, but with freedom of religion, Catholic, Buddhism, etc. Um, no white person. So he first said that everybody. He said Haitians would be known by the general appellation of Black, and then he says no white person could own land in Haiti. So no non-citizen, no one that was not being characterized as Haitian at that point, no one who was not being called Black could own land in Haiti. And also, there's no such thing as an illegitimate child. That is definitely a powerful, powerful point as well. So the Haitian Revolution inspired fierce resistance inside the U.S., including Denmark Vesey and Nat Turner. From 1824 to 1826, independent Haiti accepted 6,000 Africans escaping U.S. enslavement. And whenever Africans were coming into Haiti, they were given land and a number of money to get their life started as well. The African Revolution of Haiti inspired Simon Bolivar and the revolutions throughout South America and the Caribbean. In fact, that's also noted on their flags. When you look at Venezuela's flag and other flags where you see the blue on top of the red, and of course they have yellow for their flags, but a lot of what's being called as South American flags, the blue on top of the red is to remember, is in recognition of Haiti. U.S. President Thomas Jefferson backed the assassination of Dessalines in 1806 by the Neocolonialists. And it's also generally known as well by the population that, even though I haven't been able to find it written, but it's just something that you hear a lot, that for about 25 years, it was illegal to even say Dessalines' name after he was assassinated in Haiti, especially in the Pétionville area and Port-au-Prince. Dessalines was buried by a peasant woman who kept his memory alive. So, after the revolution in 1825, Haiti was forced by the U.S., Britain, and France to pay France $560 million in gold francs for stolen property. And the property that was being referred to at that time was African people, ourselves, and the land, that was stolen by genocide. So Haiti was forced to pay reparations. And, today, when you have this conversation about reparations and who deserves reparations and who should get reparations and where would they go, white people have no issue understanding reparations when it was Haiti having to pay France and the white world reparations for having our own revolution to free ourselves from colonial enslavement. But when it comes to reparation that has to be paid to African people just around the world, there's this confusion on how can it happen and all these things. So that's just something to note. African people of Haiti were forced to pay France and the U.S. for 127 years. This was a loss of at least $115 billion to the economy of Haiti. France and the U.S. are fattened at the expense of the forced impoverishment of the Africans of Haiti. And then they tell you on the news that, Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. This is no matter what report they're giving on Haiti, that this is like the colonial last name of Haiti, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, without explaining, where all of Haiti's resources has gone to. This is the colonial mode of production. African people produce life and wealth for the colonizer. To pay its debt, Haiti was forced to take out a loan from a French bank. Haiti is now known again, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and one of the poorest countries in the world. And meanwhile, France is one of the richest countries in the world. Everybody wants to go, to France and see the Eiffel Tower, but a lot of the resources that was built that was used to build the Eiffel Tower came from the colonization of African people in Haiti and the other places that France had colonized as well. Haiti's loan was given by a French bank that made $1 million in interest, and as it says here, the bank, this is what financed the Eiffel Tower. Because of Haiti's defeat, France was forced to sell the entire Louisiana territory to the United States for only $15 million, more than 800,000 square miles west of the Mississippi, including Missouri. The U.S. occupied Haiti very brutally from 1915 to 1934 in the face of ongoing people's resistance. All of this is, the continued punishment. They said they would make Haiti pay forever for the revolution that was waged. And, even now, in 2023, you see, different articles on, if they should go in to occupy Haiti, whether it's the U.S. or the United Nations, which is, more of the same thing. And even an article saying that, like the white world is tired of helping Haiti, and what they're calling helping is going in and occupying us and, raping our women and men and children and supporting neocolonialism. And let me read what's here. The U.S. was financed by Citigroup Bank and looted Haiti's treasury. It occupied with Marines. It killed the people's leaders. It set up neocolonialism. It forced at gunpoint the rewriting of Haiti's constitution, which ended the prohibition on white land ownership. So this is where you start getting other people being able to own land in Haiti. And the U.S. maintained overt control of Haiti's treasury until 1947. U.S. and France governments and people were enriched at the expense of African people in Haiti. And this is why Haiti is the most impoverished country in the Western Hemisphere. Not because, Haiti had some kind of deal with the devil in terms of, as they say, to have the revolution when they refer to the ceremony that I mentioned earlier. Not because Haiti is just cursed, not because Black people just don't know how to rule ourselves or Black people can't lead ourselves. It's because of what was just spelled out. So the United States set up and backed the murderous neocolonial leader, Francois Papa-Doc Duvalier, who is seen in this picture with Nelson Rockefeller. Duvalier established the paramilitary death squads known as the Tonton Macoute, which were hated by the people. And, you can check out the expression on the seated African woman's face. With the Tonton Macoute and the Duvalier, the U.S. waged a bitter reign of terror and counterinsurgency against all resistance fighters in Haiti. When Papa Doc died, he was succeeded by his son, Jean-Claude Baby Doc Duvalier, which was, also, more of the same. But the ongoing African resistance in Haiti ousted Baby Doc and the brutal Duvalier regime in 1986. In 1990, popular leader Jean-Bertrand Aristide won 67% of the vote for president. Aristide's base was in the African working class. However, like Toussaint Louverture, Aristide believed in the legitimacy of the colonizers. So we don't necessarily characterize Aristide as a as a revolutionary or like in the lane of a Dessalines. Aristide was overthrown by a U.S.-backed coup in 1991 for demanding reparations from France. Again, whenever the conversation of reparations to African people come up, the colonizer freaks out. Like Toussaint, Aristide was kidnapped by the colonizer. And so again, fierce resistance of the people rose up. So we're going to fast forward a bit into more recent history. that continues to outline the attacks made by the United States against Haiti, the continued attack. So in 2010, after the earthquake happened, the Clinton Foundation stole millions of dollars donated to Haiti, and Clinton paid no price. That goes also for the Red Cross, that goes for, just so many of those organizations that made billions of dollars. And, there's an article that says that the Red Cross built 6 homes only, with what was stolen. Haiti is only one example of the colonial mode of production. The majority of the world has been colonized by Europeans. U.S. wealth and capitalism was built on the stolen African labor in Haiti and what's known as the Americas. That is what explains the conditions of our people here in the U.S., over in Haiti, African people anywhere we are, and the difference when you look at how can the United States be so poor, how can white people in the United States how can the United States be so rich and Haiti is so poor? How can the white people in general in the United States be so rich and black people in the same United States are poor? It's because this is the relationship that exists. So now one thing about the revolution is that you have to have the answers, and you have to be able to figure out the way forward. And this is where the African Socialist International comes into play. This is where the theory of African internationalism comes to play. Just like the Africans recognized, between 1791 and 1803, that there had to be organization, there had to be unity. Excuse me. There had to be revolution, is what we have to recognize today. And the difference is that, well, it's not much of a difference, because even for Dessalines to say any black person around the world, make it to Haiti and you'll be free, that was recognition that it's all a connected struggle. So, today Haiti is not going to have another Haitian revolution, or, any one place or another where Africans are fighting to free ourselves. Is not going to happen in isolation. So this is why you have the African Socialist International. It's one organization being led by, a single ideology, which is African internationalism, with a single goal, which is to bring the revolution to completion and to success, and so that the African nation can be free, for all, once and for all. Only the African liberation led by the African working class, organized in the African People's Socialist Party, can win self-determination. So that is the overview we have for today. I'm going to hand it over to Director Elikya Ngoma, who's going to introduce the chairman and the reason why we have the African Socialist International and hashtag Omali taught me in the first place. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Comrade Elikya. I just want to say, wow, what a very powerful overview. Really want to salute that. And you can also check out some of the comments. People are really, really appreciating, this overview. That is our Haiti expert, and is our expert for a reason. So again, want to thank Comrade Elikya for the brilliant overview. And, part of what this overview helped to do, in terms of our struggle to be free as one Africa, one nation. In this whole struggle, we're in the process of redefining the world and redefining history, which includes reintroducing Africans to the world as the subjects, the makers and shapers, rather than the objects of the colonizers' history. So when we talk about, the under recognition of Ayiti, Haiti, and the African Revolution to the whole world, we are, correcting that. As we explain the world, as we carry out the African Revolution today, we are redefining this world and reintroducing Africans as the subjects of this history. So learning about the incredible African Revolution of Haiti informs us of just how instrumental the leadership coming from the enslaved, the colonized African working class masses has been and continues to be. So as Comrade Elikya mentioned, now it is my honor to introduce the leader of the African nation and the worldwide African Revolution, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Want to say uhuru and welcome to the chairman to today's program. Uhuru, Chairman.
Uhuru. First of all, I want to express my appreciation to you, Comrade Director Akile, and to Comrade Sister Elikya Ngoma for the brilliant overview that she has provided us for this discussion around Haiti. I want to also give a special acknowledgement to Africans who are in the party and Uhuru movement and throughout the world, and especially those who are located outside of the United States, in South Africa and Ghana, in the Caribbean, and also in Europe, but especially in those places where the colonizer has absolutely almost neutralized the infrastructure, or made impossible the kind of infrastructure, or nearly impossible, the kind of infrastructure that would provide the electricity and capacity for good participation through social media entities and things like that. It's really important that you are there. And I know many of you in Ghana, like Comrade Sister Afua, for example, and many of you who are in Sierra Leone and in the townships throughout what they call South Africa. They're involved in group sessions, people who are watching collectively and participating in these studies collectively, precisely because of the limitations that's been imposed on us in these various places by the colonial mode of production. And I'm hoping that there are others within the United States and Europe who might otherwise have sufficient capacity, but who have come together anyway to do these studies collectively so that you can participate in joint and collective discussions with this. So I want to, again, express appreciation to you. And also, comrades, brothers and sisters, I really think it's important, because I don't know how to do this well. I have a very difficult time, believe it or not, in dealing politically on a subjective level. And I've gone through the last several days. I've been in motion throughout this country, particularly in St. Petersburg, Florida, doing events and interviews and things like that. And during that process, I had a lot to say about me in St. Petersburg in particular, because this is one of the places that that we have come under assault, like in St. Louis, by the colonizers, and with the claims that somehow our struggle for freedom is something that comes as a consequence of a conspiracy with other foreign country that the United States and the imperial powers would designate as white peoples, just a part of the same ideological offensive offense that presupposes the inability of African people to think for ourselves and act on our own and with some agency. And this is just a lead up to say that we are now in Aquaba Hall here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I'm sorry, in St. Louis. And I'm thinking St. Petersburg too, because I just came from St. Petersburg, Florida, and in Aquaba Hall there that has been refurbished as a consequence of the activities and work and leadership of Comrade Deputy Chair Omali Yeshitela. I didn't appropriately speak to this when I was in St. Petersburg, Florida, which I should have done, because Comrade, my wife, was born in St. Petersburg, Florida, as I, and grew up there in St. Petersburg, Florida. And someone who is well known, and someone who also was in the house with me in St. Petersburg, Florida, in St. Louis, when we came under attack and was almost struck in the face by a drone that was sent into our apartment, into our house, based on the assumption that somehow the work that we do and have done all this time was done for some foreign entity, as opposed to based on the interests and aspirations of our people to be free. So I just want to salute Deputy Chair Omali Yeshitela for the incredible work, and you really would have to experience it in so many ways as a member of the party, as people in our communities who've seen the tremendous changes happen in the community physically, materially, as a consequence of the work that she has led, and also in our party and our movement, who watched the party and the movement and certain features of the party and movement that have come about as a consequence of the dedication and discipline and non-compromising stance that she has taken in this work. So I wanted to say that, use this as an opportunity to make that point. We're talking about the struggle in Haiti, in part, not just to remember some important moment in Black history, as some people would have it, but there are so many lessons that should be learned by everybody about the struggle of African people. And Haiti is a critical component of it. It then brings into bold leaf the understanding of the African People's Socialist Party, that what we are contending with throughout the world, not just Black people, but the whole world, is a colonial mode of production, which is really important to understand, because even utilizing the definition of modes of production, the existence of modes of production as a starting point, and something that Karl Marx and Frederick Engels in particular played a really important role in helping to construct and define what is happening to Africa, the existence of a world economy that revolved around the enslavement of African people, a world economy that came from that. It has never been recognized as a mode of production. What has been recognized as a mode of production is a relationship between the colonizer and the colonized, the parasite who is a colonizer, and the host that those of us who are colonized. It's been characterized as a capitalist mode of production. That's something that has benefited the Europeans and European world at the expense of the rest of us. But what happened to the rest of us has been treated as a footnote more than anything else, and not as the fundamental premise, the fundamental foundation of the whole system, political economic system that exists in the world today. And because of that, it's very difficult, impossible for many people and organizations and even countries that characterize themselves as socialists or communists to understand the real world and why it is that, despite the fact that they have achieved this thing that they have, that has been identified as a socialism, et cetera, then there's been no fundamental change in the conditions of existence, and why they're still having to struggle with an existing a capitalist mode of production. Why is it that if we recognize modes of production being the fundamental means by which human life exists in society through modes of production, and that a mode of production does not coexist naturally, normally with other modes of production, that modes of production presupposes the fact that colonialism or socialism, as they characterize it, or communism, presupposes as a mode of production the destruction, elimination of capitalism as a mode of production. But the socialism they talk about does not presuppose that. And even you have people who popularize in the United States in particular, they've stolen the concept of socialism. They popularized it, and people who were the so-called democratic, whatever socialists, they've stolen the concept and make it something that is more than anything else is capitalism light, and some of it's not so light. When you think about Bernie Sanders, who is a senator who talks about socialism, but his socialism is one that simply sees over a number of years the workers acquiring something like $15 an hour, and which is a Walmart socialism, in the sense that even the ordinary Walmart workers now, Walmart is hiring at $15 an hour. Bernie Sanders, who even as he talks about socialism, has stated that he does not support the reparations when he was running for president. So, but when you look at Haiti, it's an incredible revolutionary movement. You're looking at an assault on the whole capitalist system itself, and you give some thought to that, because you're looking at a world economy that was characterized by what's known as slavery. The whole world economy will openly, nakedly revolved around the sale and working to death in 7 years in the instance of Haiti and much of the so-called Caribbean of Black people. This was the world economy. And everything, everybody, the sugar that white people use in England for the tea that they have extorted from China and taken from China at gunpoint, would take from China and from other places. This came about. This was possible only because of the enslavement of our people, the theft of the land that we call the indigenous land. And in this instance, we're talking about Taino and the people in Haiti. But this was all over. I mean, it was stated in the overview, something like 50 million indigenous people were killed throughout what is now called the Americas. And we have to remember that America is not an indigenous name. It's a white people's name. America Van Sweet, whatever his name was what we now know as Italian, because Italy didn't exist until 1800 and something. So all of this stuff came into existence as a consequence of the enslavement of African people. And Haiti was right there. It was central to so much of the world economy. And so now you have this magnificent revolution that happened in this land. And think about it. The first workers' revolution in history, but did not become from the perspective of communists and Marxists who emerged subsequent, that didn't become the role model in the struggle against capitalism, what we should learn. In fact, one of the things that always struck me is you have this entity called the Spartacus League that's been recognized as one of the most consistent and dedicated communist organizations that starting in Germany, and then even in the United States, you have had what they've characterized as the Spartacus League, the ultra leftist, quote unquote, I'm putting this in quotes, by the way, on the one hand. And why they call themselves the Spartacus League is they named themselves for Spartacus. And Spartacus was a white man who lived as a slave under Rome. But Spartacus was captured and killed. He never led a successful revolution, but Dessalines led a successful revolution. In Haiti, you saw the first and only successful slave revolution in history came in Haiti, the first successful workers' revolution in the world. Black people did that in Haiti, which is normal because Black people were first workers under what they call capitalism, and first capital in capitalism, etc. So you have this magnificent revolution, but could not be seen and recognized as such by the colonizers, whether they call themselves workers or whether they call themselves capitalists or what have you, a boss. So in looking at Haiti, it is an incredible thing to look at, and partially what makes it important to us and to the world is the Africans in Haiti were not fighting against what they call racism. They were fighting against colonialism. They were fighting to take power, and this was one of the differences in Dessalines and Toussaint. Toussaint would have been satisfied with being a part of the French Empire. With a neocolonial solution was something that Toussaint was willing to accept, and which helps us also to understand that the struggle against colonialism is a struggle that involves the whole nation of people. It's not just the workers who are oppressed and exploited under colonialism. It's the whole class. It's the whole nation. And so, but it helps us to understand that the petty bourgeoisie can lead the struggle against colonialism, but it can't restructure the society and elevate the workers and the people who created all the wealth to leaders of that society. If I'm not mistaken, I think I read some time ago that Toussaint Louverture at one time was never a field hand, but he worked as a coach person. He was a coachman for the white colonizers, the French, and which was one of the things that distinguished him. He was brilliant, make no mistake about it. He crushed the military of France. He beat them. He beat England, Spain. I mean, and that's what Haiti did. The Haitian Revolution fought every a major colonial power on earth, the exception being at that time what was emerging as America. And it challenged the Americas by influencing the revolutionary movements of African people in what we now call the Americas. People like Denmark Vesey, who had 9,000 people who were following him with the intent to become free, and had planned to have a magnificent revolution, and they would all take ships and go to Haiti. There were others during this time frame within the United States that were influenced. So to Haiti, the notion of revolution was something that spread from Haiti, and I think it's important for us to remember this as revolution. This is what people were fighting for. Again, it's important because we have certain kinds of examples from that period that help to distinguish what the struggle was really about from how it's being characterized today and how others tried to characterize, even the white people who loved us. I think this man's name was Garrison or something like that, who was some kind of, what do you call it, to people who were fighting for abolition of slavery. To fight for the abolition of slavery is an idea about changing the form of the state. It's not necessarily fighting for the liberation of African people. To fight for the abolition of slavery, in fact, Garrison made the point that African people should be freed, but should be freed as what? As Americans. So how are you free if the one who captured you and enslaved you now say, okay, you're free, but you're an American? I mean, what the hell is this? What kind of freedom is that if the ones who have enslaved you can tell you who you are? I mean, that's what it's about in the first place. That's why people picked up these funny names that's been imposed on us by the colonizer. That's why it was important that Africans in Santo Domingo, however it was characterized, to become Haitians, because this is the name of the indigenous people, the indigenous land. And so people name ourselves. People who have power name themselves. People don't, you don't have countries where you import somebody to come to your country to name you, unless you're Catholic or something to that effect, and then they give you all these funny names and put water on you. But otherwise, people name themselves. That's what a free society does, So I think it's important that the struggle in Haiti brings into bold relief this whole thing about African people and what it is that we're fighting for, something that many of us have lost sight of. And it's not like we lost sight. It was pushed out of our vision by murder, by mayhem. Some of this was hinted at in this series coming from the book Roots. I forgot who Haley plagiarized this book from, but where, the Toby versus the name of the character, Kunte Kinte, the whole brutal change your name. And if you can change your name, that's a part of changing your history. You change your history. Names are connected, have historical significance, historical meaning. They come from somewhere. And so what has happened is God has given you a new name. God has changed your name. And when I say God, what I'm talking about is the role that the colonizer plays in the lives of those of us who are colonized. So here, this person now changed you. Now you're Smith and you're Jones. This is, and the whole notion of God creates humans in what? In her own image, right? And so now you got God who's recreated the African person in the image of the white man. And so this is something that we've struggled with, and that captured our imagination, our understanding of history and things like that. You don't have a history anymore. Your history starts with the advent of this relationship you have with the colonizer, with white people, with the white man. You have no agency at all. And this is really important. You're not able to influence the history, your life, or anything that something else always does that. And that's something that's recognized by the whole world. Everybody recognizes that Black people have no agency. Somebody else always tells you what to do, when to do it. In fact, Fela wrote about it, called a song called Zombie. Zombie say walk when he wants you to walk. Zombie say talk when he wants you to talk. Zombie say die when he wants you to die. Live. This is Zombie. This is a zombie, speaking of Haiti, So this is part of what it is that we're contending with. Emile Cabral, once made the point that the revolution of African people is a struggle to re-enter into history, as opposed to being, part of somebody else's history. And that's what you are when Marx defined this move from the feudal mode of production that Europeans live with to what he characterized as the colonial mode of production. He said this came about as a consequence of turning Africa into a warren for the commercial hunting of black skins. But all of this is what he referred to as primitive accumulation of capital. In other words, this is the beginning. This is the beginning. But what is it the beginning of? It's the beginning of the emergence of white people in history, because there was no white man before this. There was no Europe before this. There were people existing in this space they might refer to as Christendom. There were, people who in this area that we now know as Europe, who were engaged in permanent warfare against each other, just warring tribes, etc. But there was no white man. There was no Europe. This was a recent phenomenon. What gave birth to the white man and to Europe was this process that Marx called the primitive accumulation of capital, which was a whole new mode of production. And most of it occurred not in Europe, but outside of Europe, in the sense that it was capturing black people. It was capturing this land that we sit on right now that's called America. It resulted in just brutal warfare against the rest of the world that gave rise to this system. So Ayiti, so this whole notion of what it is you're fighting for, what is the struggle about, and where you have no memory of ever having been free. You have no memory. You have no memory. This is the depth, extent of the brutality, assault that's been made on black people, and then they would make your history. They call it superstition. Then where you come from, your history, they even lie. And when I grew up, I went to school and they taught us that black people we were not literate. We didn't have a written language. We just were oral people, etc. When written language comes from black people, this is the kind of thing that's been imposed on us. So you have no memory, you have no history, and then what happens? They pour this history, this memory into you, the way it functions to support the whole colonial mode of production. And so here you have people who really might like us, who really might love us, but they are limited too in terms of how they perceive the world. The colonizer who perceives the world, who may himself have been brutalized through this process, as feudal fodder and what have you, learns to understand the world through this process of primitive accumulation. This is what gives birth to the consciousness of white people, of European. For example, it's very difficult for many people, including white people who live on this stolen territory that we call America, to even think of life separate from that, because that's the end of their existence. You understand? How can you exist when I'm saying to you there was no such thing as you stole this land, you renamed it, you killed the people and put them in concentration camps, then call yourself an America. So for you to participate in the best possible way, you have to cede your identity. It's an assault on your identity. It's deep, it's profound, it's more than what most of our oppressors can understand, and unfortunately too often it's more than what we understand. So the whole notion of freedom for African people who have no memory of being free. And so when we talk about freedom, most people can think about this in the terms of improvement of some sort within the colonial mode of production. So we say, I want to be free. And when they say free, you say free. But you mean something completely different, because you know that history didn't start on the cotton plantation. History didn't start in slavery. History started as us being a free people, and the only thing that made us slaves or less than free was the introduction of Europe into our lives. This violent assault that was made on Africa, made on the indigenous people into our lives. So it's very difficult for people who cannot conceive of anything other than the existing situation to think of freedom. How can you think? When I say freedom, they mean the right to vote,
They mean better rights to go downtown. They mean to get a job, good job with white people. They mean not being quote unquote discriminated against. They cannot understand freedom as something that liquidates the whole concept of discrimination. You know, I mean, because now you are in charge. They say justice. When they say I say justice, and they say justice, we mean entirely two different things. When they say justice, they mean what we can get under colonialism. When I say justice, I mean what we give ourselves as a consequence of being empowered. You see, and so that's one of the limitations. But Haiti, coupete, boulekai, cut heads, burn houses, so that we can have our own freedom. They didn't say, let's get on the ship and go to France and kill everybody. They didn't say that. They say, coupete, boulekai. They said that everybody who is a citizen here is black. They didn't say you had to go buy shoe polish or anything like that. But what you are now black if you're a citizen. You can get out of town. You can leave, and many did. And many of the settlers in Haiti left, and they came to what we now know as America. In this country, they came to this country and they brought messages of terror with them. They terrorized all of the white people who still held us under colonial domination. They say, this is what it looks like, freedom looks like for black people, right? You understand? So to keep it from here, they became even more brutal. But they excited people like Nat Turner. They excited people like Denmark Vesey. They excited other people say, hey, this is the way forward. So the thing is, this was an incredible moment in history. It was a critical moment in history. And so the first and perhaps the only time that the whole capitalist system shuddered as a consequence of revolution was one that was led by African people, because Africans were the pedestal upon which the whole system of slavery and colonialism rested. So if Africans were free, boom, no capitalism. If Haiti became the example, boom, no capitalism. Not the French Revolution as they like to characterize it, but that island there with something like, I've forgotten how many people there now, who were there now, that island. And most of the people, Africans, many if not most, who were brought into captivity from Africa, they came through Haiti. They came to that island, and which was incredibly significant. And they were killing Africans with such frequency there, so that within 7 years, you were dead. If they brought you there, they worked Africans to death in a 7-year period. And so what that meant was that Africans didn't live long enough to get used to being enslaved, to get used to the white man being a dominant force, like has happened. That's what I'm talking about now in terms of the idea, memory of being free. People had a memory of freedom there. And they not only had a memory of freedom there, but they exported it to various other places around the world. You know, there was a system they called slave breaking, so that an African who was first brought from Africa to what they call the Americas, etc., were first beaten up, broken down, etc., to break Africans, so that the memory and of resistance, the memory of being free was something that was pushed out of our consciousness and what have you. So Haiti was fundamental. And I want us to remember that. And Haiti reminds us of the significance of Africans having agency and the fear of the colonizer of Africans having agency. We got members of the party in Haiti. I'm glad to say that. Because I hear all the time of people with free Haiti, free Haiti, free Haiti. They're speaking about free Haiti as something they're going to do from New York. You understand? There's no assumptions that Africans have agency. We are one people who have been forced, one nation forcibly separated and divided around the world. And we have agency. So the objective is to build a revolution in Haiti, right? And that's what our responsibility as a part of a revolution of African people worldwide. People can say, U.S. AFRICOM out of Africa. Yeah, we say that too. But we understand what has to happen is the revolution has to be built in Africa, because the fact is that Africans have agency. And it's this agency that helps us to transform St. Louis. African people have lived here forever. You've got people who've been elected into office right here in St. Louis. They've been here, some families, for more than 40 years in St. Louis. And we've done in a period of 5 years more than they did in 40 years. Why? Wait a minute. Why? Because they have accepted the system as the defining thing, working within the limitations imposed on us by the system. They have accepted the notion that Africans do not have agency, that somehow we have to get permission from the system to do anything that we want to do. It's like a fighter going into a boxing ring, and you're going to fight Mike Tyson, and he tell you that this is what you have to do to win. You understand? It doesn't work that way. And so the party says we have agency. And that worker, that African person who's been chased through the streets every night by the police, that African who's been starved to death, who's been said, we're going to take away your food stamps, now what you going to do? We said that African has agency through organization and philosophy, African internationalist for philosophy. You don't have to say what you're going to do, we're going to eat. And we're going to eat even if we have to go get the food that you stole from us from you. We're going to eat. That's the thing. And we're going to do it in an organized fashion. And we ain't going to feel bad about it because we are informed by African internationalism that helps us to understand we have agency. And that's why we are a problem to the colonizer. Because we say the Africans ourselves, and that's part of the real struggle that we're always involved in, is helping Africans to even perceive and conceive of the fact that we have agency, and we have always had agency. We have not always been like this. In fact, the vast majority of our existence, we were free people. In just a short period of time, they erased that memory. And that's what we mean. That's what DeSantis is talking about when he says you can't teach history. That's what they are dealing with. And they talk about this whatever kind of critical race stuff, you know. They say no history, no African must never have any inkling of what we've done. Even the critical race thinkers, by the way, not talking about what we talk about when we talk about history. They just want to say bad things happen to us. We want to say before bad things happen to us by somebody else, we did good things for ourselves, etc. And we can do that again, right? So that's part of, and Haiti is just such a glaring example of that. And I just want to say that if we, and hey, Africans from Haiti are treated so badly, in part because of what it represents. The colonizer understands Haiti. That's why they do everything they can to destroy Haiti, to destroy the notion of Black people being free. They will take Haiti and they use the poverty that they have imposed on Haiti as an example of the inability of Black people to be self-governing, to take care of ourselves, to feed. But we fed, clothed France for more than 100 years. France lived off us. The sidewalks, cafes in France, they are there in part because of what they took from us at gunpoint. The Eiffel Tower. We financed the Eiffel Tower. Africans in Haiti directly did that. And all of France benefits from a world economy that has its origin in slavery and genocide, not just of Africans in Haiti, but every place else. So we are one people, we are one Africa and one nation. And we are not fighting against colonial racism. The thing is that we have to destroy the colonial mode of production, which is a parasitic mode of production. We said something here during this overview that I just wanted to comment on. It says something to the effect that the colonial mode of production is something that brings wealth, benefits to the colonizer. But the colonial mode of production is more than that. A colonial mode of production, everybody is a part of the colonial mode of production. It's just not the colonizer getting wealthy from it, it's the colonized getting poor from it. Is this a dialectic that's there that we must understand? It's not like the white people or the colonizers the only one have a relationship that they benefit, from the colonial mode of production. It's all in the world, all economic activity. The dominant economic activity in the world now occurs within the colonial mode of production. And that which challenges that to some extent, and we don't know exactly where it's going, is what you can see coming from Russia, coming from China to some extent. But even that, as we say to some extent, because what China and Russia, up from as much as we can see, understand, are attempting to do is not to destroy the colonial mode of production, but to get maximum benefit for China and for Russia by destroying, undermining the power of the traditional colonizers. There is no discussion that I've heard. I've heard Putin recently say something about colonialism. And he may have heard or read one of my speeches. But, you know, traditionally, you don't hear them talking about overturning colonialism. And the fact is that all of that activity, all economic activity is based on colonialism, and all the political phenomenon that we see has its origin in the colonial mode of production as well. So I just wanted to make those comments, and then just again to say that that Ayiti, you know, it's crazy just how the consciousness of our people too. This whole false national consciousness. You can go into Miami right now, and you can ask somebody, you know, African. You stop at one person working at the airport and say, "Well, I'm trying to find the Black community," and they say, "Well, oh, it's over here." You know, used to be a place called Newtown and Liberty City, which is significant in itself, and then say that's where, you know, Black people live over there. But the Haitians live over here. You understand that? There's this boom. How the hell does that work? You know what I mean? So the definition imposed on us by the colonizer, well, even you can see somebody, and if you don't hear them speak, you make the assumption that you're the same. But if the French is the one who's imposed French language in some variation, and you hear them say something, then that's a foreigner, right? But even they don't even call the French a foreigner, because the French who's not speaking French is not a foreigner. It's just a white guy who's supposed to be in your life, every aspect of your life and what have you. I was talking just the other day, when you look at this country, for example, that they call America, you know, I have never seen anybody who was defined or characterized as a French American or British American or German American, or I've heard of somebody called a Mexican American, African American, that which is one of the nicest things they ever called us. I've heard of people having these other hyphens associated with them, but it's obvious that the American is the white man. So that includes the French, the Germans, the Albanians, and all the others who have now become what they call American. I don't hear about, I'm an Albanian American. I'm a German American. No, there's a Black American, there's a Mexican American, there's all those people who we have colonized and enslaved and allowed them to have some kind of relationship, that hyphen. And that gives us permission to keep them in prison and to kill them in the streets and what have you, and do all those other things, because it's a domestic problem. All right, so I just wanted to say those things, and thank Comrade Elikya for that brilliant presentation. And when I say that, Comrade Elikya, I'm aware of who you are, by which I mean that as we work as an organization, so much of what we present comes as a consequence of organized, you know, work that we do. But I also am aware of who you are and what you represent and how you've been making this struggle for a very, very long period of time. African internationalism might have helped to clarify it for you, but I know you've been in the trenches around this question for a long time, and that's obvious by your stance in more ways than one. So Uhuru, Comrade Director Kile, I hope we're on time. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman. This is, I would say this study is right on time, just based on how the people are responding to this. And I really want to just appreciate, you know, what you said. And we just had the real honor to have the chairman back in St. Pete, for a while. I'm, based in St. Petersburg, Florida. And it was just really profound to have you here, Chairman, over this last week, and all of the different events and interviews. And in some of those discussions, you said the quote, "If you know what you have done, it tells you what you can do." And when we look at this history of the African Revolution of Ayiti and just the overall, struggles of, African and colonized peoples, to fight to overthrow the colonial mode of production, this is obviously a history that we have not been able to have this immediate access to until, African internationalism, your leadership, the African People's Socialist Party. And I was just thinking even how, like you said, Denmark, Vesey, and Nat Turner, they heard about the Haitian Revolution. They said, we can do that right here, and so you went to, pursue that. And so I just wanted to just really, really appreciate.
Let me just say, Comrade Director, this whole issue of agency, that you hear this where we're told that it was the French colonizers who made a revolution in France that inspired the revolution Haiti. So again, it's the white man who teaches us the idea about being free. We don't have agency of our own, and this is the thing that get pumped at us all the time. And even I've heard Africans make the statement that some problem that we've had in Africa, especially going into the 1960s, is that the French, either the French or the British, freed us too soon before they taught us how to be free, or something like that. How the hell, first of all, for somebody who just entered history themselves, and then secondly, who has, the only thing they've taught us is slavery, is colonial domination. And so somehow, all of a sudden, what happens? They wake up and then become the professors on freedom. They're the ones who can teach what freedom is, when the only evidence that anybody in the world has in terms of what Europe has to teach us has been violence and murder. And then they capture our science. They capture everything that we've done and claim it as their own. They colonize it. They keep us from learning anything about ourselves, and then give it back to us as if it were theirs, a gift from them. Somebody once said that, what do they call it? Crossover music. I've heard somebody say a long time, crossover music is black people who are trying to sing like white people who are trying to sing like black people. That's what they characterize as crossover. And so they give it back to you. This pablum that they give back to you has no meaningful bearing on what it is that they took from you in the first place. So anyway, Comrade Director, go ahead. I won't interrupt you again.
Well, it's fine. I appreciate it. And there was something you said where about, in terms of the colonizer and how, in terms of defining the world, defining themselves and the rest of us. And, this whole concept of the white man's burden, and we had to bring, to the world all of these great things that, Europe apparently had, which we know is just based on African internationalism. We know that it was dying, it was, starving, feudalism, poor, Europe. But this whole idea that they brought to the world, civilization and, things like that. And one of the things you said was they base some things that they would base their like evidence that they were more civilized, or is that because they had this like advanced weaponry or something to that effect, where because that's what they brought to the world, was the violence, was death and murder. It was like what they were doing in Europe to survive. Anyway, it was just in terms of what the colonizer versus what the colonized have been able, has brought to the world. And also Comrade Basel wrote in the chat, Palmeiras Quilombo in Brazil was from 1605 to 1694. The Berbice Revolution was from 1763 to 1764, all before the French Revolution. So Peru. And we're going to go into question and answers, but first I want to just take a look at some Uhuru movement announcements so people can be aware of what's going on and how to get connected with all the things that we're doing here in the Uhuru movement, the African People's Socialist Party. So first things first, the main campaign of the African People's Socialist Party is the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa counteroffensive. And you can join this counteroffensive to stop the FBI attacks on the African People's Socialist Party and the African liberation struggle by donating or volunteering to the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign. For more information, go to handsoffuhuru.org to volunteer, donate, sign the petition, and the emergency response pledge. And on Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, you can join an online yoga class that is a fundraiser for the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign. You can sign up by emailing yogareparations@gmail.com. Only $10 per ticket. You can pay in advance at handsoffuhuru.org/donate. So there will be a yoga class right after this study. So make sure you guys get connected with that. Every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Africa time, tune in live for the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa, Africa Region broadcast. You can follow the Facebook APSP Africa Region, facebook.com/APSP Africa Region. This is hosted by the Director of Organization for the Africa Region, Director Tafari Mugeri, as well as Comrade Morlai in Sierra Leone, West Africa. So again, that's every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Africa time at facebook.com/APSP Africa Region. On Saturday, April 22nd from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come if you are in this area, or if you're not in the area but you want to fly into it, come to the Uhuru Health Festival and Flea Market in Philadelphia with free health screenings, live cultural performances, giveaways, free fitness demonstrations, a children's circle, and 100+ market vendors. Speakers will include Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Director Aisha Fields of the All African Peoples Development and Empowerment Project. For more information, go to oneafricamarketphilly.org. And on Saturday, and also on Saturday, April 22nd at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa campaigns presents How to Crash Regions Bank and Fight for Power to the People. Hear reports from the front lines of resistance, including Belinda Parker Brown, founder/CEO of Louisiana United International, LUI, and other special guests. This is a virtual event. You can register to attend at tinyurl.com/hands-off-meeting. On Wednesday, April 26th, join the African People's Solidarity Committee for a special web event featuring Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who will discuss the U.S. war against Russia. Register to join on Zoom at tinyurl.com/war-on-Russia. Announcing the new book coming in June 2023, titled The Verdict is In, Reparations Now, just in time for summer. This is the 40th anniversary edition of the report from the 1982 World Tribunal on Reparations to African People, including a foreword by Luwezi Kinshasa, additional testimonies, and an epilogue by Chairman Omali Yeshitela. You can pre-order your copy now at theburningspear.store. And make sure you like and subscribe to the Burning Spear TV on YouTube to catch every episode of the Omali Taught Me Sunday Study, and support the Omali Taught Me show by donating now at paypal.me/Omali Taught Me. Uhuru Tours and Speakers Bureau is an institution of the African People's Socialist Party that coordinates events and tours for Chairman Omali Yeshitela and other party speakers and leaders. Book Chairman Omali and other Uhuru Movement speakers for your campus or organization now. I'm excited to say that we held an event at the university that I attend here in St. Petersburg, Florida, with the chairman this past Friday. And there's no more dynamic speaker that you can find. You know, you have to book Chairman Omali Yeshitela for your campus, your organization. So email info@uhurutours.com or call 727-914-3621. And finally, for more events, go to theburningspear.com/events. You can see everything that we've got going on, everything you can get connected to, what's happening in your region, what's happening virtually. Go to theburningspear.com/events. And before just going into Q&A, we'll also just want to call on people, as it's been stated, you know, that this is a struggle that has to be waged worldwide, and that we can make the struggle to free Africa, and that includes Africans in Ayiti, by struggling and joining the African People's Socialist Party and building the front of the African Revolution wherever it is that we exist today. So if that means you're in Haiti, you're building the African Revolution in Haiti. You're building the African Revolution here in the U.S. You're building the African Revolution in Brazil, in Europe, and on the continent of Africa, everywhere it is we've been dispersed, we are bringing and building the African Revolution. So join the African People's Socialist Party. Go to apspuhuru.org to become a member today. So Uhuru, comrades. And now we're going to go into some questions, comments from our online audience, from those of you who are watching with us today. And I want to acknowledge where people have tuned in from. We have Fort Myers, Florida, United Kingdom, Lakeland, Florida, Marion County, Georgia, Oakland, California, St. Louis, Missouri, Battle Creek, Michigan, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Watts, California, San Diego, California, Haiti, New York City, Everton, West South Africa, Largo, Florida, Wichita, Kansas, Bartow, Florida, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Texas, Fresno, California, and Bermuda all checked in with us today. So Huru Comrades, thank you for tuning in. And also we've got several donations have come in today. We have a $12 total donation from Almost Alkaline, aka Janaba. Thank you so much, Comrade Janaba. We also have a donation from Comrade Brother Matum in Philadelphia with $20. Uhuru. Thank you, Brother Matum. I also saw a donation come in from, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to catch it to make sure I recognize everybody. Whew. Eugene Mason. Eugene Mason donated $20 also to the study today. So Uhuru Comrades, thank you all so much for, making these contributions to the efforts, that we, have to pull together these studies and bring this information to you. Really, really important, and appreciate your support. So, Chairman, I just want to read.
Let me say this first. I want people to be on the lookout for. I think we have to go very seriously into the Harlem International African Arts Festival. I think that's in May in Harlem. Comrade Lisa Davis, the vice chair of the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, has always had a very good presence along with NPDOM at that. And I think we want to go with intent this time and get as many people as we can. So be on the lookout for information coming from us and join us there. We want to have a really heavy presence there. There are thousands and thousands of Africans who come to that every year. And we want to, help bring information and education there as well. Uhuru. So go ahead with the issue question.
Uhuru, yes. So let's see. We have a question from Comrade Janaba said that I read that on March 20th of this year, Putin recently paid $20 billion of debt from various for various African countries. And she wanted to know whether or not this was true. And maybe we could even expound on, what we kind of understand.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think what we're seeing is for the first time in a very long time, the traditional European colonizers have to contend with other powerful forces in the world for a relationship with Africa. When they didn't have to contend, they just did anything they wanted to do and didn't have to worry that Africa would be able to have relationships or get assistance from any other country in the world, which is one of the reasons that Macron from France was berating African people who, on the continent of Africa, who were challenging the French version of history and reality, and saying that our, actually defining this relationship was not coming from us, but from Russia. Russia is the entity they said was teaching us how to say that. If we, were even on the continent, and so because for the first time in a very long time, now Russia, China, contending with the traditional colonizers for influence, for access to the resources that's been dominated by the traditional colonizers. We saw something like this happen in the 60s. In the 1960s, the Soviet Union and also China that had a tremendous amount of influence at a time where I think the Chinese and Soviet revolution at one particular time was a very honest revolution and made an assumption about the workers of the world being able to be free and genuine unity with the anti-colonial struggles. I mean, Ho Chi Minh said, what kind of revolution are you talking from Vietnam about if you're not talking about fighting against colonialism? And so that was something that was recognized at that time. But the success of the colonizers in crushing the anti-colonial revolution throughout the world placed severe limitations on Russia and on China. And so now, for the first time in a very long time, China and Russia have become powerful, and they are going to Africa. Like every successful economy in the world requires resources from Africa. And the issue is that Africa does not have control of our own resources. And it's impossible to have control of our own resources because there is no Africa. There are 54 Africas based on how they've carved it all up. And so we can't come from a united perspective except through African internationalism, where we say we're one Africa, one nation, and pulling all together. So I believe it's been the tradition of colonizers who've extorted all kinds of value, sanctioned different countries because the US dollar has been the dominant currency that people have used, et cetera. And now what's happening is there's a contest going on that's increasingly successful, challenging the domination of the traditional colonizer, and Russia is one of them, and China is one of them. And so, yeah, let's get rid of the so-called debt, that how can Africa owe the white world debt? How in the world is it possible for Africa to be indebted except they control the world economic system? And that's now something that's under challenge. So yeah, I believe it's true. And I believe that for us, the significance of that is that we see the absolute control of political and economic control of Africa, the absolute control by the traditional colonizers are being fractured. There are contenders there. And it means that the Socialist International may need to hustle like hell, become the determining factors in what's going to happen to our Africa, because otherwise it's just this thing that's that different forces who will fight each other over and have us fighting each other as proxies for them without having our own program. So yeah, I think that's true. What Russia has done that around the debt. And every now and then you will even see the colonial powers, they would say, okay, we are now going to free you from this debt over the last number of years. And that becomes necessary every time. Also, the debt becomes so burdensome, there's no way in hell that the host can pay it. So they need to keep you alive in order to bleed you. It's like the vampire, he bites you and then lets you run around biting other people, etc. And but you need to be alive in order to regenerate some more blood to be sucked from you, etc. So, James, I know that was a rather convoluted response, but yeah, I do think that it's probably true about Russia. Yeah, I had seen that information too. Uhuru.
Chairman, thank you. And thank you, Comrade Janaba, for your question. And related to just the overall struggle we see in the world, Chairman, around the struggle of the contending emerging economic configurations, for the world, because right now we see the colonial mode of production is under assault, and these things what the moves that Russia and China and other forces are making out there in the world are certainly impacting on the whole colonial mode of production. And so one of the questions is from Comrade Syrup C in the United Kingdom, who says, Uhuru, I'd love to get the chairman's thoughts on BRICS, BRICS, BRICS.
Yeah, BRICS, that's a united economic front that includes Brazil, Russia, what am I leaving out? Brazil, Russia, say it. India, China, and South Africa. And so they've reached certain kinds of agreements that even has to do with currency, and a common currency that would challenge the hegemony of the United States. So the United States, because everything is the world currency, so that everybody pays their debts and use banking systems controlled by the United States. And this is something that formerly came about at the end of the Second Imperialist World War, where up to then, England dominated the world system and economic and financial system. And then with the Second Imperialist World War, the United States becoming the big dog, became the premier force. It is and created a new economic entities, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the trade organizations and things like that that set the terms for what all the trade in the world would be. And the United States dollar became the common currency of the world. And that's the thing that's given them the power to sanction different countries. And even if they took money from that from Venezuela, that came from Venezuelan oil, because it was in their system, and they took it. They've taken money from Afghanistan because they say they've tried to control Afghanistan and fought people and killed people there for something like 25 years or more. And the Afghans beat them on the ground. And when they did that, they said, well, we control the banking system, so we're taking your money because we don't like the way you treat Afghan women. And they have done that. And I don't know if it was a feminist who is over that in the United States or not, but this notion that somehow the United States should do that and could do that. So, that's like part of what we're looking at. And so the BRICS is a new arrangement. There are other arrangements. There are other forces moving. I just saw something the other day where the president of Kenya, which is a neocolonial country, indicated that the people in Kenya should stop using the U.S. dollar, that we're going to pay everything in Kenyan currency, that kind of thing. So the U.S. dollar is losing its heft and domination, and that's a real crisis. At the moment, it is no longer the world currency. That's when you're going to see the bottom drop out of everything, and it's moving rapidly in that direction. BRICS is a part of that process. And be aware, when we look at BRICS, I mean, you're not looking at all of these as being revolutionary countries, except that they're engaged in the struggle against the U.S. hegemony, U.S. domination, and what have you. And that's a problem for how the system expresses itself today. We still got a whole bunch of work to do. Because and when they talk about BRICS, I included one of the so-called BRICS countries, South Africa. Well, what is South Africa? I mean, that's itself as a creation of the colonizer. And so you got China, who is a part of BRICS, and China represents more than 100 million people. India, which now has more people than China, more than 100 million people, and not Africa, but South Africa. And the fact is, when you combine the potential of Africa into recognition of Africa more than in Africa itself, they're talking about by 2050, I think they're talking about Africa, maybe 2 billion people. And if you look at the totality of the African population around the world that's confused about who the hell we are, you're talking about almost 2 billion people right now. So, and that's a pretty amazing economic force. And when you look at China, and the thing that rapidly grew China's economic capacity is this huge population. And labor is an amazing part of capital, capital expenditure, how much money has to be paid for labor. And there was cheap labor in China. So you got all these cheap laborers in China working together, and they've built China out and continuously doing that. And just think about what that would mean in terms of Africa. You're talking about cheap labor that's in Africa that belongs now to Africa and that is producing for Africa, not for so-called South Africa that's still controlled by the white man, but by Africa itself. So yeah, the BRICS is a really important emergence here. And it's got traction now, along with an overall movement for de-dollarization. There's a whole global movement, and more forces, even Saudi Arabia, and even France is trying to get a piece of that. All of them are moving in that direction, and it's going to have earth-shaking consequences as it materializes and consolidates itself in the best possible way. So BRICS is important. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Comrade Syrup C, for your question. And we are getting to the end of time here, but I actually had a question, and I don't, Comrade Elikya, you feel free to jump in at any point.
Please do.
Discussion as well. Actually, I like 2 questions or things that I thought maybe we could, deepen. But the significance, I thought, of the Constitution of Dessalines, Ayiti's Constitution after the African Revolution, was like something really profound that I was hoping we could touch on a little bit more, and including the question of everybody, everyone in Haiti, becoming a citizen, and including white people becoming Black, and I wanted to know if that's similar to or the same as our position on the question of committing national suicide. So that was what I had.
Yeah, I think that's really significant because, but go ahead, Comrade Elikya. Maestro.
Chairman. Yes, Dr. Kide, that's a very important question. And I do think it's like it, there's also like, I don't want to say a fun fact, but it's quite knowledge as well, that even after the revolution, a lot of the documents that had to be written, there were still some white people, those who fought on the side of the enslaved, that Dessalines put to work to even like physically write the Constitution. It's his words and his ideology, but you could say even then, Dessalines had an African People's Solidarity Committee. But what he does in that, in that Constitution, is that he defines Black, like anti-colonial, anti-oppressive, something else that's said in that Constitution. He says we're not even gonna go into the other islands and like dictate how they will run their things. So he had no interest whatsoever in mimicking anything that was like colonial power. So when he said everybody who was here, those who were there, fought in the revolution and were a part of the revolution would be Black. That's just saying that's your stance. Your stance is that you have shown yourself worthy to be Black, to be African. And so I think, today when you look at, the real revolution of the world is being waged by African people, and we define what the African nation is. And, that's the stance that has to be, you have to be Black.
And I think that helps to bring us to a recognition that, as quiet as it's kept, and I'm going to really have to let the cat out of the bag. There's no such thing as white people. I'm sorry to have to tell you. It's like Santa Claus, it's a myth. And so it's a political and ideological construct. And white people mean boss. It means master and all of these other things, etc. And I think that helps to deconstruct this whole thing. And I do believe it's a part of the whole ability for national suicide, and everybody can commit national suicide. And what that helps to tell us too is that all the oppression and exploitation that's experienced by the people in the world comes from white power, and Black power is the fight against that oppression and exploitation that's characterized as white power. So all the white women and all the white homosexuals and all the white workers who are really interested in being free have to turn loose this ideological concept that puts you on top of everybody else, even in your state of exploitation and oppression, and join the Black revolution to overturn it. That's what Ayiti gave them an opportunity to do, Dessalines. So I think that's really important. And I also think in terms of that Constitution, how powerful is it? There will be no such thing as an illegitimate child. As an illegitimate child. And this is the Hillary Clinton, the terrorist colonizer feminist, who steals this concept about it takes a village to raise a child. That's Africa, straight up and down, even Africa as it went into Haiti, pushed into this territory we call Haiti now. No such thing as an illegitimate child. The village, the village is the custodian of our children. And so people are put in this situation trying to make these incredible decisions about abortions, this and et cetera, Roe versus Wade.
The reason you were in that situation is because the burden and it is a burden, and when it's imposed just on a single human being, a single woman to take care of the child, it becomes a burden, as opposed to an expression of the joy of the community. The community is a new force that's coming to the community. The community takes custody of that child, training that child, raising that child up, making that child happy, and what have you, etc. So that was amazing. I felt one of the other things about it, and the United States did invade Haiti. Was that 1915? Somewhere around that time. And it's worth mentioning that it happened shortly before the Russian Revolution. It happened shortly after the creation of the Universal Negro Improvement Association in Jamaica. It was a time frame where revolutionary movement was, African Black Revolution was happening everywhere. In 1915, the United States government, Marines invaded Haiti, and at gunpoint, literally, the people refused, the government, the people who were in power in the government, the parliament, refused to change the Constitution. At gunpoint, they forced a change of the Constitution because, you know why? Because the United States believe in, it's a country of laws. It's ruled by law. You have to have law. They believe in that. So at gunpoint, they made the people change the law so that white people could own land there. You understand? This literally happened. You know, this didn't make this up. And they did a whole bunch of other incredibly criminal things, like that. And they hold the world at gunpoint now. And gunpoint, what they couldn't win on the ground, they're telling people in Afghanistan, this is how you have to treat women. We didn't kill enough, we didn't bomb enough, we didn't do enough to destroy women. Now we're going to destroy everybody, including the women at gunpoint. You know, this thing that came out in Vietnam, where one of the generals said that fighting against Vietnamese, we had to destroy the village in order to save it. So this is what we see a lot of, and they will make a law to justify what it is they want to do. They don't want you to talk to nobody but them. So if you do so, they make a law. So it's illegal if you're talking to anybody but us, because they believe in rule by law. You understand? Yeah. And really, that's the principle. That's the real principle. And you hear them say that all the time, Uhuru. I took too much time, Comrade Akile. Go ahead.
Uhuru, no, it was like this has been great, and this was very helpful, Chairman. I really appreciate it. And Comrade Elikya, we are going to start the shutdown process. I want to read this comment from Syrup C. It says, apparently Napoleon sent a Polish legion to Ayiti, and they turned against the French and stayed in Ayiti after.
They did.
So, Uhuru. So,
and they became, in the process of doing that, they became Black.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're
I think they call that alchemy, don't they? Alchemy. Yeah. They came there white, you know what I'm saying? They became Black, Just like when you leave Africa and you come here, you disappear as an African, you become a partial white person, like a African American, and they change the borders in Mexico, and you become a Mexican American. Alchemy that they call political science and what have you.
Yes, well, so before we just officially close it out, I wanted to see Comrade Elikya and Chairman, are there any closing remarks?
Go ahead, Comrade Maestro.
Uhuru.
We call her Maestro because she is the writer of our music. She's written the African National Fight song. She's conducted so much stuff like that. And so Maestro, it's on you.
Uhuru. Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. Well, just want to, appreciate, the hashtag Omali Taught Me crew for having this study. I think it's something that is just very important for us to learn or refresh our memory on. And just want to say, I did see a question about has Haiti has the party presented itself as like a legitimate force in Haiti? And as the chairman said, we are building in Haiti. We've been trying to get into Haiti for some time. And some of that began with the translation work, and it begins with these studies. And we know that the solution for Haiti is in the African People's Socialist Party and the African Socialist International. So just want to say it's an honor to have been a part of today's #Omali Taught Me Sunday Study, and just to remind everybody that the revolution is lit. Uhuru.
Thank you, Comrade. I just want to say that every now and then, in Haiti and other places, people say, send money, send money, send money. And what we're saying, we're saying theory, send theory, send theory. We're saying organization, send organization, send organization, and that join the African Revolution and become part of the Haitian front of the African Revolution, because we're not going to be saved by charity. What's going to have to happen is that we're going to have to become part of a revolutionary project, just like we are in Everton West in South Africa, and just as we are in Freetown in Sierra Leone and various other places where we are located. So that's what I want to say, that, just having money sent to us from any other place is not the solution. In fact, the colonizer will do that. And there's a bank that they have to keep people on their knees by sending them money so that we never create anything for ourselves. Self-reliance, self-determination is what we are fighting for. And that's part of the African Revolution Ayiti. If Jean-Jacques Dessalines didn't teach us anything, he taught us that. Don't take anything from them, burn them down, create a whole new situation for ourselves and power in the hands of our people. So I want to thank you, Comrade Director, and everyone who has come on to this discussion, and join the movement, join the African People's Socialist Party, join the entities of the Uhuru movement, from NPDUM to APDEP to ANWO, African National Women's Organization, to African People's Solidarity Committee, Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and all of these fronts of a single revolutionary project. Join it. You should do that because we can win, and we are winning. Uhuru. One nation. One nation.
Comrades. And I'll just wrap up with, make sure to follow the chairman on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch, and subscribe to the Burning Sport TV on YouTube to catch every episode of the Omali Taught Me Sunday Study. I want to say, coupe tête.
Boule.